Hello and welcome to Module 2, where we'll be going through Google Analytics 4 tracking setup. In this module, we'll be going through how to plan your setup using an event mapping matrix, going through automatically tracked events in GA4, how to implement GA4 using Google Tag Manager and the top things to look out for, and also how to check and QA your setup. And there's several ways you can do that using a dashboard or using a Chrome add-on. So firstly, I want to go through how to plan your setup, and I just want to recap the differences between UA and GA4 events. So in UA, you collect 3 pieces of information with an event. That's mainly an event category, an event action, and an event label. Here we're using the Google Merchandise Store Universal Analytics account to go through some examples of the events collected here. So when I click into the Enhanced E-commerce event category, it then takes me to the event page. So I can then click on the event action, and it tells me the information associated with that Enhanced E-commerce event. I can then click on that again, and it then gives me the event label associated with these 2 pieces of information. So that means one event can have an event category, an event action, and an event label. And it can also have an event value. So there's kind of three bits of text information there that you can gather, and one sort of numerical value information. GA4 works slightly differently because you collect an event, it's got a single name, and then you collect loads of other pieces of information with it. And you can actually collect up to 25 extra fields there. So I'm just going to show you how that works. So here is the Google Merchandise Store Google Analytics 4 account. And here you can see the different names of the events which are being collected. So for example, there's an event called Add to Cart. And within that, you will then get up to 25 other bits of information depending on what you set up to be tracked. So that could be something like the product ID, the product category, the value of the user, the user's location. It could be anything that you're kind of setting up to collect along with that. So that kind of means that we've got a lot more information to play with than we did in Universal Analytics, because in Universal Analytics we only had sort of 3 bits of information that we could gather: the category, the event, and the category, the action, and the label. Whereas in Google Analytics 4, we've got the name and up to 25 other bits of information as well. And in the Google Analytics help article, they've actually given a really good example of this. So here, a UA event would be a loan calculator interaction, where they've called the event action loan calculator. They've then given the event category the name refinance, the event label residential, and the current borrower value of true, which was a custom dimension, and then also a loan amount of 250,000. So how would you actually then migrate that information into a GA4 event? Well, what they've done is simply, instead of the event action, they've used the event name. So here the event name is loan calculator. They've then passed all the other bits of information that they were collecting in UA into event parameters. So here we've got an event parameter called loan type with the value of refinance. We've then got another parameter called borrower type with the value of residential. You then got a third parameter called current borrower, and here it's been marked as true. And then they've got a 4th parameter called loan amount, which has a value of 250,000. So we're actually collecting the same information here, but they're all just being passed as parameters. They then get passed as custom dimensions and metrics, but we can go into that in a bit more information at a later date. So the best way to map your Universal Analytics events to a Google Analytics 4 event is to simply start listing out your Universal Analytics events and then see whether you require them to be migrated or not. So for example, when we were looking at the Google Merchandise Store, we saw that they had 2 main events here. What I've done is I've listed these out into a document. So here I've just written a description of what these 2 events are. I can then decide whether I actually want to migrate these events to GA4. And this is actually quite a good opportunity to clean up the account. So are there events that we've had in there which we don't actually really use, and we don't really use them for any decisions? Or are there opportunities for other events that we can start adding in? In this example, I want to migrate both of these events. So I'm just going to label these as yes. And these aren't being tracked by default, which we'll go into in a bit more detail soon. So I'm just going to put these as no for the moment. So now I need to decide what I'm going to track these as in GA4. So just to recap, GA4 events are a single name, and then they have parameters against them. So here, I'm just going to call this a quick view click. So that's going to be my GA4 event name. And then the information I want to pass along with that would be the product name of that click. So here in Universal, this is actually being tracked as an event label already. So I'm going to put that as a parameter. So I'm going to have a parameter called product name, which then every time a quick view click happens, the parameter has the value of whatever that product name is as well. I can then include some other information if I want to. So I could have something like product value, or I could have something like product color too. I can have up to 25 parameters. So for every click that happens, I can add in as many pieces of information I want. I'm going to put in page type as well. But this is kind of just me planning what piece of information I want to pass along with that event name. So for contact us, this is a click on either a telephone or an email link. So here I'm going to call that event name contact click. But then what sort of information do I want to pass there as a parameter? So it would be useful to have the page type. It would also be useful to have the contact type, so whether it's an email or a phone. And I think that's it for now, so I'm going to leave that there. So there we've actually got two different parameters for the contact click event, and we've got 4 different parameters for the quick view click event. And that's basically how I've planned it in. We also have custom dimensions in Universal Analytics. And in the Google Merchandise Store, I saw 3 key custom dimensions here. One was product ID, and we're going to actually be including that in some of the events as well. So let's add that in as well. So product ID could be a parameter. So I'm gonna note that we're gonna have that still as a piece of information we're collecting, and that's going to be product ID, and it's going to be a hit scope. This is a hit scope because it's a piece of information that could change on different events. So there's going to be different products on the site that will have different product IDs. So therefore I'm using it as a hit scope. User category though, we will migrate that one in this example, and we're going to create a parameter called user category. However, the scope for this is going to be user, because it's something that won't really change that much as the user browses the website. So in this example, it could be something like a seller or a buyer. And then the next one would be sales region. And again, I'm going to have that as a user scope. And that's because it's something that probably won't really change too much. And then you'll be able to sort of use that in things like retargeting if you want to. So there are custom dimensions, and with that we have our parameter list and our different events that we kind of want to track in GA4.